Susan Wolski, I'm the chairperson for the Orange County Industrial Development Agency, the Audit Committee. If everybody could please stand and rise to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
Liberty, justice.
Bill, if you'll give us a roll call, please.
Yes, let's start first with committee members. Susan Wolski.
Here.
Mark Green. James Rinaldi. All three current committee members are present. We also have Dean Tamburi, our acting chair, who's sitting on this meeting as well. Kelly Riley, our project manager, and myself, Bill Fioravanti, our CEO. We're here as staff. I'm not sure, I don't think Marty's on live right now. And we have as guests, first of all, Mark and Matthew Fellenser. They are from Fellenser Engineering. They are one of our two local labor auditing monitors. They have to be local, based in Middletown. They've done this work for the IDA before, by the way. This was their second time doing that as well. And then we also have as our guests, really our applicants from Royal Wine / GFI, really a joint development agreement, joint venture agreement that we incentivize for their wine manufacturing project in the village of Goshen. As part of that venture and representing again the applicant and the project in this case, are with us in person is Mr. Brian Poitras. We also have on Zoom Leif Ronaldson and Will Duffy. Thanks for joining us, guys. And I think that's everyone except for Jonathan Gross, legal counsel for Royal Wine, is online as well. And I don't know who N. Helfgott is, but I'm thinking that's from Royal Wine as well. Right? Okay.
That's Morris Helfgott from Royal. Correct.
Thank you, Will. And last but not least, Dennis Brady from 88 Studios, our AV consultant. So that is everyone. I'm sure for.
Thank you. Our first two items have been tabled regarding the minutes, and we are going to move directly into new business, which is a request for the exemption for Royal Wine. And I believe, Mr. Belcher, you have a presentation to make to us regarding this? Or
Yes.
did you want?
I'll start you off real quick, if that's okay. I'm going to say this is the folks from GFI and Royal Wine, the Fellenser, they cannot be more sick of me saying the same type of thing. But I just want to be clear, as I've said to the board, this is new for our administration and how we interpret our local labor policy, how we enforce it, how we work with our monitors, how we balance some of the challenges and the tug of war that goes on just very naturally, even in good faith, between the developer, between those that have interest in local labor and such. We're figuring this all out together with our new monitors. In this case, Fellenser Engineering, they've been tremendous to work with, a great resource. Their job, to be clear to the public and everyone else present, Fellenser's job in this case as our local labor monitor is to ensure that the applicant, the project, Royal Wine, GFI in this case, that they follow our labor policy to a T, which explicitly states that you're going to make every effort to source materials locally, and most importantly, to source construction labor locally, 85% of it. So they've done a great job of doing that, of guiding this project on where to find local labor sources, this, that, and the other, gone back and forth, and in great faith, these folks have really tried every effort. So I'm starting with this little diatribe here because this is one of our first waiver requests. And this hasn't been easy to get here, but I want to thank everyone for the work they've done. And again, the back and forth that it's taken. And we're just trying to, again, thread that needle between exploring every avenue to go locally, with also not slowing down a critical project like this. So I just want to start off with that, and then I would pass this to Mark Fellenser to talk about this waiver exemption request.
Sure. So thank you, Bill and committee members. In front of you, you've received some background information from the applicant on a process they followed to get to this point, and the request for the waiver. Earlier, kind of a pre-waiver request came forth in a meeting about a month and a half ago, at which time we felt that every effort had not occurred. Every reasonable effort is the terminology happens to be under the cost differential, but at the time there was a question not just of cost, but also of qualifications of contractors to be able to assemble this building, this size building in the timeline with the steel, Butler Steel manufacturer. Butler Building was their preferred manufacturer. There aren't really any manufacturers in the 8 counties locally. So the manufacturing supply of the building was not really in question by us as your consultants. But the labor to construct the building was the concern. So at that time, we had discussion and meetings about going kind of deeper into and trying to get every reasonable effort covered, try to have the building erected by local labor. So a timeline has been established and put together. The applicant had questions about, rebidding the project. We just referred them back to the policy, which they had, and were, I will say, very willing to discuss openly about the policy and what we felt it meant. We also provided information through on resources for local labor in terms of Ironworkers Union, also Contractor Association, CCA, Alan Seidman, the executive of it, to reach out to be able to speak to people. They had already spoken to Matt Stoddard, and they had spoken to ABM, Steel Building Erectors, for work on the project. So they worked diligently through. Again, we have a timeline starting in February to seek the qualifications necessary and the, I'll say, rebidding of the project. So it was kind of two-faceted. One was original price differential on their early bids exceeding 20%, which was, this is a job over $15 million, so under 3.0 cost differential on the labor policy adopted 01/12/17, the Orange County IDA required them to provide every reasonable effort. We, I'll say, pushed them. They were willing to be pushed, but we pushed them to continue and to follow that process. After that, they put back out a bid package, and they've been transparent. They provide us copies with information on that bid package. So I thank you for that, which very specifically identified timelines of the project, size, requirements, requirements for training, for qualification yesterday to discuss, their results of that. We had been kept informed kind of generally, but specifically, and their request for seeking the waiver. So they produced the document. So the waiver is not being requested. So I'll be clear on this. It's not being requested on a cost differential basis. The request for the waiver is being under their reasons for request under 1 and 2 are follow your IDA policy 1 and 2 warranty issues. They've provided that ability of local steel erectors provide the warranty of Butler Building specifically, and they provide information and background on it. And the second is the magnitude of the just sheer magnitude of the size of the building and their timeline. So those are the two reasons for their requests. They've provided a lot of background documentation on that. So that's what they've come to the board.
Will, Brian, and Leith, is there anything you'd like to add to that? We certainly may ask questions that come from the committee, but anything at this point you wanted to add to the way Mark summarized that?
I mean, I would just like to start with saying that, the building, and I'm sure you're aware of it, is a, 600,000 plus square foot production warehouse combination hybrid with long spans, heavy loads on the roof. And it's also a pre-engineered building, which kind of makes it a little different, a lot different than a conventional style build. I think if it wasn't pre-engineered, we probably wouldn't be here today having this conversation. It's just, basically that means that every hole is already pre-drilled. So if this building isn't put up exactly right from the start, it becomes very complex and problematic. It also has a complex standing seam roof system that requires experience, especially with something this large. It could easily go wrong. And we've tried to follow and be team players throughout this whole thing. And as you can see in our correspondence of walking through the qualification process, it was very difficult for us, and we're not at ease with our results, and that is the reason that we are looking for this exemption. And I feel if any of you were in our same boat, I think you would feel the same way. This is a huge investment for us, and we don't have an option to fail, and we're that's why we're here today.
Thank you for that, Leif. I'm going to ask one other question before we go to the committee, if we could. Leif, I like to address any of the elephants in the room, and one I would say is that the way Mark kind of laid out the way things worked, and you saw the chronology of your of the back and forth with this. One could think, I'm worried about the perception of it, that price was a concern because per our local labor policy, even a local firm has to be within 20% of the price differential of an outside bid, right? That was a concern. They were not within the 20%. And I know that Felons will back me up on this, that you guys were very open and cooperative in, we were putting it, giving the trades or giving a local firm a second or third bite of the apple, which you did that. But then when it seemed like they came within that differential, then what resulted in the final waiver request form that you filled out was more about the concern was the firm's ability to do it, to handle it, not the price. So I'm concerned about the perception that one can have that, oh, well, it was about price, but then at the end, when they got it within that price differential, then we pivoted and it became more about experience and scope and ability. I just would like to ask you to address that.
Well, I would say, I'm sorry, can I respond? Want
to go first, or do you want Brian to start?
Okay, Brian can start.
So in my mind,
step forward if you will, this mic and right to the corner.
No, right here.
Perfect.
Oh, sure. Thank you. And I think I understand that. I would say that, thank you for having me here today. I'd like to say that, as we've come to understand how the law worked, obviously, in my mind, the ability to complete the job was always the biggest concern. But it seemed to me, just trying to understand, and there was competency and ability to complete and qualifications and also price. And frankly, it seemed like, well, prices weren't close. So it seemed like, well, they weren't, I don't have to get to that part. They're not close on price. So we don't have to even get to the point where I don't think they're qualified. It seems like it was an easier point to discuss, right? So, but the biggest thing, the most important thing is that I worry about the qualifications, the ability to complete a job this complex. So it seemed like I think we came in originally saying, hey, it's A and B. Yes, A is gone, but B's still here.
And I know that from the conversations of part, I want to make sure this committee knows that the public hears that.
Yes, that is safety of everybody on the job is my main concern.
and I just want to add that qualifications were always in it. So, I don't leave that out. They were always part of that. And I will say that I think this process was working in terms of second look, the every effort. I will say that the union was very willing to work with the local contractor to provide incentives to help that contractor lower the prices that he had provided and to become more competitive. So that's part of this, which I think is an important aspect. This is a local labor policy. So it is about local workers having every chance to work on the project. I know we've already, Siders Waiver already spoken ahead about other trades that are forthcoming, because they're all going to be looked at very carefully, and they realize that we're really serious about this as artists, and we represent. So I will say that, you know, I think that it worked in terms of that aspect of it. You know, the uniqueness maybe of many people can put up pre-engineered steel buildings. You know, they are important to be done very precisely because of expansion, contraction, and sunlight, and roofs, and very flat roofs. They're not flat, but they're very flat. So you got to be very careful leakage on them. So it is a skill set. I believe the contractor they went to has good skills in that area, but it is a very large, very unique building. The timeline that was put together, frankly, I thought was, you know, it's a very delicate timeline. Whoever gets this job has got their work cut out for them, because and the whole thing, you know, concrete, I mean, start date less than 2 months away, and, you know, concrete isn't in, the steel's going to be going up in, you know, months. So there's a lot of things going on. So, you know, certainly they've provided a lot of documentation. They've been very open, need copies of emails back and forth between the owners, developers, and the contractors, and they've been open about sending those through, and they've been informational for us. So I think, you know, all that is shows, you know, good intent on their part. But again, I'll go back. This is a local labor policy. We're here to make sure that, you know, every effort is made to hire county's labor to work on the project. So I hope that, I'm sure, you know, there's been times I'm sure they're not too happy with me, that they read that loud and clear what that means. You know, I don't take it lightly, because, you know, that's why you hired us. Serious about this, and you know, we're happy to push, you know, for that. So we represent this coming back in this discussion.
And I would say, if I could add, it's a bit outside the scope, but we've been really pleased with what we've been able to find. I mean, not just, I mean, this one trade aside, but just the skilled trades in the 8 counties, and the amount of locally we have been able to source has been great. There's a lot of good skilled trades here. There's a lot of good people here, and we're thrilled that they're going to work on this project. You know, we're making a big commitment. Orange County, Royal Wine is, if I could speak for Royal Wine, they're moving from 2 different states and multiple counties here, and they're going to hire people. And I've been really thrilled with, you know, the amount of locally we have able to source in most other areas of the job. So this is, you know, yeah, I don't want to come here asking for an exemption, but I do want to just.
If I may, one last question for the felons. We're here to focus on this waiver request, of course, but could you just talk for a moment about on-site, you guys going on-site and doing any monitoring, just what you've done to this point, to be aware of?
Yes,
and how the applicants.
Sure. Yeah, we've had, I think, 2 meetings on site. I've also gone around the site. Matt has as well. So we do see the site, witness it. We set up the date, the time that this agreement take place. You know, applicant's been providing and will provide more information based on that date that has been established. And, you know, we're asking that, you know, while walk through this, is that to set up the whole job. Obviously, we want to know now, right, all the contracts that are going to be let and who, so that we're not caught in any time gun. They're getting that together. I realize this is like most critical, but tomorrow the most critical will be, you know, the concrete, and the next day will be, you know, and certainly in the construction industry, the timelines on getting things now are, you know, very sporadic and very difficult. So the earlier that's done, the better. The earlier we have chance for this, and information that Bill, you've sent through, thank you, to make sure that we get this word out. I called Alan Seidman, spoke to him about this. tell them that they'll be calling you, you know, explain more about his website. So we're really trying to develop this pool of people that can be gone to get pricing. That's just the small part. It's not limited to that group, you know, any contractor in the 8 counties for sure, you know. But I think that that's a positive way when companies come in, because you know, we do about 300 projects a year. We work with many different contractors, and I truly believe we have a tremendous workforce in this area, you know, as capable as anyone on the planet to do the work that needs to be done. But there are specialty things, so I'm not holding that, you know, but, you know, and I truly believe that, and we do a lot of different projects and different types. And, you know, the workforce that is out there is quite capable, as are their companies that employ them. And I do, you know, continue to push, you know, maybe even harder that, you know, that you know, every single effort's made across the board, not just price-wise, but, you know, to help you find, you know, the people that you're after to build this project.
And Geraldine, back to you.
I'd like to open up to the board for any discussion or questions that you may have.
I just one thing is like it seems to me like it's like this Butler building, right? It seems like Butler is a very specific. Am I hearing that correctly? It's like more of a specific and has like the warranties, or is this because of the size of this building that it's a Butler building? Are you guys run into this as well with smaller?
Sure. This is like a little different. We're starting to run into, so for food, in particular, food processing facilities, they're very worried about, and this is my cut on it. I'll let maybe you guys speak a little bit more, but very concerned about, you know, dust, bacteria collection, right? So as an example, you know, columns around they want are not corners, not areas to get in to clean. So there's manufacturers that just traditionally don't necessarily do it that way. Not that they can't change, but, you know, and I think in a market that's pretty busy overall, you know, you don't see a lot of people welcoming to change their norm, right? Not that they won't, just like, you know, to get the response.
They don't have to.
They're backed up for 2 years already, but, you know, so I think that a little of that plays in, and I think, you know, so some of the sourcing issues, I think it's also, you know, again, my personal cut, the comfort level with the applicant and the previous successful projects with a manufacturer and having worked with them very early on, you know, through the process, I think, you know, knowing they meet all the requirements, certainly I think weighs that. And pretty early on, we said really we don't, because of, you know, the manufacturer does not really dictate our local labor policies. We don't have a manufacturing plant. So we didn't care about that. They are a little linked with the installers. So as you can see from their information, warranty information, payment information, how quickly and when they have to pay, we really didn't talk about it, but that's part of their financials about, you know, when the whole building has to be paid for as part of, you know, it's kind of a little bit tied between, you know, who Butler has approved as their high level directors or whatever. I think, you know, all plays in for it, but I'll let maybe the applicant speak a little bit more about that. That's kind of like the overview from audit side.
Yeah, warranty is a huge issue, and having a non-certified Butler builder puts us in an awkward position with prepayment of steel. You know, with that being said, then that's why we you know, that was one of our qualification questions that we needed, just to make sure that, you know, whoever does the erection is not going to it is going to be in Butler's qualification, qualified by Butler, so that, you know, we don't get stuck with what will happen is we're going to be in a position where they're going to request us to pay for 100% of the steel up front versus, you know, over a 6-month period, which, you know, one is going to be very difficult for us to get from our lender. That's not a standard practice. You know, it's $23 million worth of steel. And also we're going to have to pay that interest upfront and for the balance of the project, which is, amounts to a huge amount of money, which we didn't plan on, going that route.
I mean, is there a possibility, do we know that the installer could possibly use some local people in city?
I mean, personally, I think that's a very good question, and I'm glad you've asked that. I think that, that's something that I think could certainly be worked out with the developer so we start to train our local people on how to build a Butler building, if that's,
We had that conversation yesterday.
a possibility. And I would certainly, again, as from a local labor perspective, to have part of the crew or one of the crews or support to the crew, local labor, if not being able to possibly get the local labor doing that aspect, I think it's good short term. I think it's also good long term. I think Butler will see that there are people here capable of doing the work, right? So that maybe as it goes forward, when we get our next Butler building in somewhere else in the county, we won't have that issue that we don't have someone that can't handle the warranty and do all those things. And I think that that's a very good and very forward perspective for this committee to look at, and I think, can be discussed with the.
Yeah, there are parts of this that are not the superstructure that are definitely,
Right.
Yeah.
Or if,
So-
who knows, maybe this installer sees that the workforce is pretty well, even if he has the next one, but he can utilize more local people.
Especially with the time.
This is very comfortable with them.
Exactly right.
I think, if I could speak for a second, I just want to start by saying, contractually, these guys are going to be very, pressed for the responsibilities to finish this on time. It's an aggressive schedule. And it's a very complex build, and they're going to have specific members already set up in order to execute. What I think we could do is, take a portion of, maybe out of their contract, like the decking for the roof and the mezzanines, and let, have it come out of Merit's contract and have it go to a union bid, if that would, be an option. There's 240,000 square feet of decking.
Anything like that can be done is just more support of the local labor, which is the goal, right? Obviously.
So, I mean, if the schedule is going, do we have a first person probably going in, is be concrete, have a concrete?
I think we talked about it, and I've had some calls from concrete installers, corporate companies already. So the word's getting out, you're coming to town, and not that you haven't let it out, you've let it out, obviously, so that's good. So I'll let them tell you, we have not received anything yet, but we did have some discussion yesterday that your applicant's very pleased with the response and the quality of the concrete installers, masons in the area. So I don't know if you guys want to go any further, Leaf, on that or not?
Yeah, I mean, I've been working with, for a while in conversation with Sullivan Concrete. They're smart guys. They've been very informative for us. We haven't gotten bid pricing back yet, but we're working towards hopefully making a deal. If we can get close, we're gonna do it. But we haven't gotten pricing yet to date.
And then the last thing I was going to say is I appreciate the effort that you've made, and I think that we understand that we are trying to help the local people, and I think it's a very important aspect of the role of the IDA. And
Couple of questions. Say that you've worked very hard to get local, and I'm not really expecting an answer, but if you can, do you have any kind of numbers, any kind of thoughts? What percentage of local that you've been able so far?
Well, IDA, you're doing a great job. Thank you, sir.
Well,
But we can get, go ahead.
as you may or may not know, steel is basically the first hurdle we have in the project. And then concrete and MEPs. I've received, lists from, Todd and Matt Stoddard for, companies that we'd like to, that would like to us to solicit bidding information to, which we've reached out to. Some of this is design build. So as far as a number goes, I don't have, I can tell you, as far as exemptions go, erection and we're also, racking would be the only other thing that I'm aware of at this point that, we're still trying to figure out for labor. And I know that, Mark has given, some contacts for us to reach out to, which we have. I don't know the results of that yet, but we're working to find, local labor for as much of, as much of this project as possible. I mean, I understand that, or I hope you understand that, with this steel, it's a specialty. And we're just in a bind with this particular, because it's a pre-engineered building. It's really puts the the amount of labor opportunity very small. But concrete, MEPs, all that type of stuff. I mean, there's there's tons of labor out there, local labor.
But just to give this guy some, I'm sorry, Brian, I don't know. Mark, I'm Brian. Just, I mean, the size of this exemption is what? Is the labor is what, 7-8 million? Right, and the whole job's 105? But labor numbers, I don't know. Yeah, the whole job 105. I don't have, but it's not a huge piece of the whole pie. Yeah.
I mean, it's a huge job, so the number is big from overall. So, and that's why the erection is a little higher, because it's a huge building. But there's a lot of local labor work ahead.
And so you somewhat touched on my follow-up question was, do you foresee any other reasons why you would need to come for another exemption?
The only if it becomes a specialty where we can't find local, like there's not an option for local labor. And like the only other thing that we've discussed to date is that we're having trouble finding local labor, which Mark is assisting us on, is the pallet racking. And we're reaching out to other labor unions for this, but we just we haven't gotten enough feedback to be able to answer that question.
And then my final question, and I apologize, I today. So the contractor you do want to use, where are they located? Where are they coming from?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I couldn't hear what you said.
The contractor you do want.
Where's Merritt from, Leaf?
Oh, Maryland.
Okay.
They're pretty much the biggest, highest qualified erector team, I would say, from the Mason-Dixon line, our direction. They specialize in large buildings. They've done numerous, and on their qualification sheet, they list some of the projects, and if you go through that, you can really get an understanding of what these guys are capable of. They really fit this project pretty well.
So I do have a couple comments and questions. I mean, I read through the whole packet, and I stayed awake. So, I know another specialty item that's gonna be in this is gonna be the HVAC. Have you started exploring it to make sure that we're gonna have local HVAC contractors be able to install the specialty equipment? Because I would hate to see you come back for another exemption based on that.
We are exploring it, and we're, you know, looking into, even if we can't find an outfit that's capable of taking on the job, we would look into hiring, you know, union labor to supplement it.
I mean, I've read through this, from what I saw, my opinions were when these bids were first put out, it didn't look like any of our, local laborers were actually too anxious to get on board. These advanced construction designs that are coming out these days are very specialized, that I do realize, and as the computer graphics and everything changes, it's just bringing more and more specialty to these kind of super buildings. And unfortunately, I think everywhere labor runs behind on that, which is going to be a constant battle for anybody going to develop on a large scale. So for me personally, I can't speak for the rest of my board members. I would not have a problem, as much as I hate to lose 40 jobs. Like you said, maybe they can make it up in the decking and transfer some of it to that, where we do have plenty of qualified contractors that can do that. I would support this, and saying though, but the well's gonna go dry. Anybody else, any
No,
comments?
well, I just think that you said it a little differently than I did. You know, you were probably not gonna find someone that's more understanding of the amount of money that you're gonna put into this and the need to have the guarantee and to do those types of things. I fully understand that. But my final comment is, when there's an exception, 2 or 3 becomes a pattern, and that becomes a problem. So my questions were targeted towards the future and what your thoughts are about the future, because, and we want to support you. We're thrilled that you're here. Want to do everything we can to expedite this so that you all can start making money on your investment. But we have a fiduciary duty that we have to abide by. So I don't expect you to have to answer.
No, I think it's, like I said, I just repeat, I said, we've been really thrilled with the depth of the local labor pool, the trades we have here, the things that are like the superstructure, and the couple of things that they're just only, you know, Jesus, something's really specialized, and there aren't those skill sets here. We're just, we don't want to hire anybody outside the counties. We want to, we're going to be here for a long time, and we want to build more here, and we want to do it with you guys, and we're trying to just,
we're not planning on this being our last project in New York.
Good to hear.
Get it. We understand.
Okay, so with that being said, I would like to make a motion that we approve this exemption. Have a second, please.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion's passed.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions even though we're past that part, while we have GFI here? Good.
On a positive note, I used them about 25 years ago for lots of that. They sent their people that qualified and quick they were. So they knew the dance and they got it up amazingly fast. I don't think local would have done with that. Very positive on them using their outside sources to do this.
If there's no other business to attend to this evening, I'd like to put out a motion to adjourn.
Yes.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting is officially adjourned.
All right,
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, folks.